Phew. Welcome to Arsenal above all. Funny couple of weeks at the Emirates. As we all know, last weekend or the weekend before, we had the ticketing system malfunctioning. Today we had the team malfunctioning, or Mikel Arteta'S system, whatever way you want to look at it. I've got James Johnstone with me today. He's got his he's got his finger over the reset button to sort things out. He's, as well as his many hats, he's an IT man as well. So he's got his finger hovering over the reset button. But before we do any of that, let's go. Welcome to the show. We have James. James, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm very, very well. Apart from the result and what transpired with the game, that I'm sure we'll touch on to. I'm great now. Thank you for having me on, man. It's a pleasure. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for your time, man. I know you're a busy man and doing well with your reboot of your show, JJ Football, James Johnson Football. You know, crack onto that. Great stuff, great content. So let's let's get on with it, shall we? With what happened earlier. We have to, yeah. I know. I was going to say, we want to talk about this still. Mate. Let's start off with the lineup first of all, because obviously that's it's normally a big thing when the lineup drops, you know, an hour before kickoff and everyone's scrambling and seeing what's what. And obviously, I know you take a very keen interest in that. You upload your lineups beforehand. I think this one was fairly spot on, apart from the Kivior introduction on the left hand side. I think most people go with Zinchenko. But what was your thoughts on that? I mean, some people are saying maybe looking in hindsight, maybe he should have stuck with Eddie up front. Maybe gone a bit stronger just to put maybe Fulham to bed, someone who's on form. But what was your thoughts on the lineup, James?
Yes, so obviously, when it comes out, straight away on Twitter, I've gone, okay, well, that's not what I picked. It's completely different from what I picked. However, I looked at it and, no disrespect to Fulham. If we're going to take a look at just not even what they've been like this season, let's just take a look at them at the moment with the week that they've had. So they've just held 3 to Brentford, right? Their best centre-back, who I believe is nearly like 35 anyway, in Tim Ream, gets sent off. Then they lose Mitrovic. So they've had like an absolute down week. So I look at that squad that you've conveniently put up there as well. And I think on paper, that's still got the job of giving Fulham an absolutely torrid time. I'm happy that Trossard's back in there. Would I have dropped Eddie? Me personally, no. But I've read just a few minutes ago, and Jack was telling me before I come on and everything as well, that apparently Eddie's picked up an injury after the game, but there was murmurs that he had something with his knee beforehand. So I don't know how much that played into it. But yeah, looking at that, I thought to myself, okay, Partey as the conventional right back, I worry. I don't like it. I don't like it, Michael. And on the show that I did in midweek, Kenny, bless him, he said, James, we're going to come a cropper soon with him there. And I thought it might have been next week. I did not believe it would be against Fulham. And if that's me being arrogant, then fair play, I'll hold my hands up. But I just thought, okay, so out of possession, it's probably going to be, it's a 3, or a 4, and then it becomes the 3 when obviously we're in the possession and everything else like that. And Kivior, I got no problems with. The guy right at the end, he was very unlucky not to score. It just bobbled a bit too much in front of him. But yeah, I just think there was way too much tinkering about with everything. And I don't understand it, Michael. I think today a lot of people are blaming, certain players that really taking, the criticism of is getting to that level now, and it's only, 3 league games, but we've had, count the Community Shield, we've only had 4 games this season. I think the blame solely, like it should most of the time, it has to sit at the manager's door. I think he was way too cute, and a bit like what I said earlier, arrogant and disrespectful of the opposition that we played.
Yeah, I kind of said that after the Forest game. I thought he overthought it a little bit, because obviously we know that the formation he played and the system he played against City the week before, it wasn't this system, was it? It was the conventional, the back four, obviously with Timber being as the inverted left back, and obviously you had Havertz up front, and you had the normal sort of everything as it was. There was no issue there. So obviously he's gone into these games thinking, okay, a little bit, we're going to dominate the ball, fine, but I want us to have an extra midfielder and things like that. I kind of agree. I agree with you in that regards. I think there's a little element of disrespect there, but this is the Premier League, and we know, and we've said for many years that why do managers try to get too cute and too clever when what you really should be doing is playing your strongest team as strong as possible, get the job done if you can, and then after 60, 70 minutes, if hopefully the job is done, then you can make your changes. Then maybe you can rotate and take a couple of players off. That's what people were talking about before. Oh, great, if we can get a couple of goals, we can bring Zinchenko on and Jesus on with 20 minutes to go, so we can maybe feed them into get them back to fitness slowly before the game next week. But what happens now, James? Do you think he has to, maybe this performance has to, there's only one way he can go now, especially with the opposition we've got coming up, United, and obviously with their win and their tails are up. They had a bit of a bad week as well. Obviously, Fulham had, but they did. Obviously, with the injuries they've picked up and the fallout from the defeat last week. What happened? Does he have to press that reset button? Does he have to go back to that system last season? Because for me, he's ripped up. People say he's ripped up. The best partnership that we've had centre back wise since Toure and Sol Campbell, Kolo Toure and Sol Campbell, in terms of numbers and in terms of performance. Because Gabriel was practically ever present. I think he missed one game, didn't he? I think at the 38. Saliba would have been the same if he hadn't got injured. That's an absolute certainty. But he not only has disrupted that partnership, he's disrupted the partnership on the right with Ben White and Bukayo Saka, and another partnership which was the little triangle they had with Odegaard. So that's completely gone as well. So do you think he has to go back to that with what's happened and maybe allow Rice and Partey to sort of form something and allow Odegaard to maybe a little bit of a free rein? But what would you do next week? What do you think he has to do now?
I think he has to revert to what got him got him 5 points away from winning our first league in nearly 19, 20 years. I don't think he will, because again, much like many moons ago when we did podcasts all together, and we said that he's putting Willian in because it was his first window and it was his first big signing. And I do like like we're saying, there's the arrogance there of thinking that Fulham are just there to be taken for granted. There is an arrogance there of, I can make this player that Chelsea got so wrong, I'm the man that can bring him back. And I don't think he's going to drop until it becomes, like Willian, until it becomes a point where there's no other choice but to drop him. The performances were so bad from Willian at the stage where it was just like, if you do not drop him, you really are delusional. And I mean, it was only because he was a naughty boy and had that Christmas dinner with all the other Brazilian lads, weren't it, that Smith Rowe and all that come in. If maybe he didn't have the naughty dinner, they may have all played still, and we might have still had Willian for a bit longer. But I think the justification of trying to shoehorn Havertz in, where he's a player that's down on confidence, and it's not his fault. He is down on confidence. He's learning a new role. His teammates are adapting to it. I believe Thomas Partey and Rice are a much better option. Rice He's good enough to play as an 8. You know, we've seen him on the ball in the short, you know, sample size that we've had with us, and he plays these through balls, man. He's tailor made for it. He can get up and down. He can win it high up. If he gets bypassed, don't worry, you got Partey there. If Partey gets bypassed, don't worry, Saliba's there. I mean, the Gabriel situation, Michael. If he's selling him, just come out and say it, because this is what everybody's thinking. And if next week he does go, everyone's just going to be like, well, what have you done?
Yeah.
Because, and I mean, I don't know what top left-footed, as much football as I watch, I don't know what top tier left-footed centre-backs that are available that you can go and get. You know, there was so many links to Laporte before he went to Saudi, which made me think you were probably aware that there's interest in Gabriel way before any of us have known, but you didn't manage to get him. And there was a big story that come out at the start of the week that was like Man City flat out have gone, we're not giving them any more players because of the fact that last season with the Zinchenko and the Jesus addition, like I said, we were only 5 points away, and they're like, we ain't having that again.
Yeah.
So I don't understand it. Like you said, Man United, they're up on confidence now. They're probably looking at it thinking, it's a good time to play Arsenal, because they're not, you know, they're not in good confidence. If you look at it, okay, Nottingham Forest, we got the win, but you look at the performances instead of the results, we were hanging on there in the end. Palace the other night went down to 10 men, but we were hanging on, and this one we didn't get to hang on because we let the goal in. So I don't know. I really don't know. But I think he has to go back to type, Michael, because whatever he's trying to do now isn't working. And it's affecting, if it was affecting one or two players' performances, you could still go, well, hang on, you know, let's stick it through because they might get better. But when you're hampering your goalkeeper, you know, Ramsdale, I thought looked terrible out there today. Ben White,
Saliba looked a bit shaky as well.
Exactly.
I mean, that was partly that. I think partly that was down to Fulham setup. There were a couple of times where they would literally blocked that middle. They, you know, because Saliba likes to make a pass like a dagger right through the middle, and they were shutting that out. They were cutting that out. You could see they were literally in like a box. And there's like 2 boxes there, and you just couldn't. And there was a couple of times he made a couple of passes. I think one in the first half, especially, which got cut out, and they came back on. He looked shaky, but I think, like you said, I think 100%. There's too much upheaval, you know, and we know the key player of that team has come out of it was Xhaka, and everyone kind of thought, well, okay, you're going to get Rice in, and you're going to he'll be the one to sort of turn into that double pivot, but then also allowing, you know, license to go forward and get into the box a bit like Xhaka did. But it's turned out not to be that at all. It's turned out to be something completely different. And what you talked about as well with the left-footed centre back, you know, that was all you could talk about. You know, all the athletic articles. You know how vital it is. And obviously, the last couple, you know, the 3 games in the league, he's played Saliba there. So is that kind of, you know, his philosophy in that regards, that seems to have gone out the window as well. In terms for the time being, in terms of what he's trying to do in trying to integrate Havertz into the team. I mean, does that matter anymore? I mean, I imagine it doesn't if he's going to stick with this system. But if he does revert back to it, I mean, Gabriel has to come back in next week. You know, if he doesn't come back in next week, then that probably means he's been sold, right? I can't. You know, he's not been carrying an injury. He's come on. He's come on the last couple of games where we needed him to defend. He didn't come on today. He probably would have done a better job at that corner than all of them combined, the way they defended it, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, just I just think the system. Yeah, I just think he's overcomplicating it. He's you know, it was great to hear him say that we need to stop being predictable last season, towards the end of the last season, and that's what we need to work on. But Jesus, I didn't think it was going to be so unpredictable that he would absolutely pull the rug on so many things that worked so well last season. You know, only needed just maybe one additional player here or there, but he's completely, ripped up his system, which was fairly successful until the last 10 games of the season. What's your thoughts on the goal, the first goal, James? Because I can't believe it's happened again. You know, it's 3 or 4, 3 times it's happened in the last couple of months at the Emirates. And you think of all of that work they've done all week, You know, all that preparation. They come out. You know, the fans are up for it. They're here. You know, North London forever. Yeah, this is it. We're gonna get it, and then bang, you let in another early goal again. I mean, is it a worry? Is it just, you know, just bad luck? Or is it something deeper than that? Are these guys not tuned in like properly yet? Like, you know, at the start of the game.
Yeah, well, I think you said it best when you said there about early. People, you know, the fan base, me included, talk about how great it was that we were so early with all our business in the transfer window. We talked about how last season we were so early in how good, you know, those first 9 games, how early we looked. And now I thought Christmas was 4 months away, Mike, but we're going early and giving Christmas presents out to people. I mean, what a gift! He hasn't even finished it well. He hasn't even finished it
Yeah,
well. It's a really sloppy sort of finish, but it still goes. I mean, Ramsdale. I don't want to dig these people out, but his starting position for that. I mean, the starting position for the second goal is questionable as well. But for that, it's like he's over here, then he's coming all the way back here, and I'm like, you're just basically saying to him, "Pick. There's your corner, mate. You've made the decision for him," and that's the thing with Arsenal. When we, and it has been our Achilles heel for so many years, when we make an error and there's 2 people there that can bail, you know, your mates can bail you out. We don't bail them out. You don't get bailed out. And then it's as a collective, like it's like the whole ship goes down together, which in some aspects it's valiant, you know, it's nice, but you're like, oh my goodness. And yeah, it's happening too often. I don't think it's a concentration thing. I just again, I think it goes into the what we said earlier about the slight arrogance that might feed into the players because they were pushing high, really, really. I mean, Thomas Partey, who's meant to be sort of in that right back berth per se, he's right down that mid. He's nowhere near where he should be.
yeah,
And then straight after that as well, as much as I adore Ben White, and I know Stephen adores Ben White as well, that one where he heads it up in the air
mm,
and Jimenez then gets the overhead kick. You've
yeah,
got to head that second ball as well.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
have
yeah.
to. I mean,
Yeah.
it was like he just stood and watched it. He
Didn't
was
watch
just
it.
in
Yeah,
awe of him, but basically like, oh my god, he's hit an overhead kick. That you can't
yeah,
get it. Just
yeah.
all of them. It
They were
just,
so off. Yeah, they were
yeah,
so off today. Martinelli. I think to a man, you could just say they were all off. You know, Partey kind of showed little glimpses and stuff with Rice as well. But there were so many passes that were just so off, and people making decisions, or the touches just weren't there, or they were too heavy. Don't know what they did last night, what the pre-match meal was, or whatever. Today, it just seemed to just take them off. But I think partly it is the arrogance. I think we've seen it before. I think when we drew when we beat Bournemouth, sorry, in that 3-2 game, we made some changes and we had that bad start. When we played Southampton, we made some changes, which kind of were like, okay, we'll give a couple of the reserve boys a little bit of a run. And it just seemed to take the level down a little bit, and maybe the confidence, and maybe you could say the same thing happens, today. It's frustrating, man. I mean, it does feel worrying that we're conceding goals again just freely at home. I mean, we all said at the start of the season, that's the thing we need to nip in the bud. Let's get some clean sheets. Yeah, Palace, great clean sheet. Our record away from home was pretty good last season anyway in terms of clean sheets, but at home, again, we're just conceding all too often. And when you're scoring 2 goals at home and that's not enough for you to get 3 points, that shouldn't be happening. You know, you shouldn't have to do that. Obviously, there's going to be occasional time when you play against the top side. You know, we beat Liverpool 3-2, we beat Man United 3-2, so you have to go that one better. But when you're playing sides that you should be dispatching pretty well, you scored the 2 goals, but you've chucked in a couple, and we've given those goals away. The first goal, like you said, Ramsdale, don't know what he was doing, just panicking. First minute again, like what happened against Southampton. Just first couple of minutes, he's a bit all over the place. His feet can't sort his feet out. Looks really, really bad, and just that adds a little bit more pressure on him now, because obviously he knows who's sitting, in the dugout watching him, and that's another thing. I mean, that's another thing. People have kind of said, okay, the Havertz deal, kind of doesn't make sense. Where you sort of got, what have you got him in for? Is it because you want to try and prove that you're the man and look what you can do to this guy? And then you've got a keeper in who is, quite easily one of the best in the league, and you've got kind of one of the best in the league, and it's like you're causing this sort of friction that may, even though they say they're goalkeepers union, we're going to support each other, it's still there. You're still going to have it in your back of your mind. Oh, I'm one couple of mistakes, I'm out, I'm done. So yeah, it's I don't know. I kind of think Arteta needs to kind of nip this in the bud quickly, and I think the reason, the way he does that is he's got to revert to the system that which worked so well last year. Because today you saw when we were chasing the game, Saka was getting the ball and he was just getting doubled up, and it was easy for him because normally White is there doing the overlap, and he was there a couple of times, but because he was in the midfield and because of in the middle, sorry, and because Partey was there as well, there was nobody doing that, and it was basically Odegaard doing it, and then it was a 3 against 2, so they weren't getting outnumbered. There wasn't getting any numerical advantage or anything. So again, that's down to the system. I just don't get what I kind of get what he's trying to do. He wants to dominate possession and he thinks it's going to create loads of chances and everything like that. But we just look, we don't look solid going the other way at all. And that was evident to be honest, that was evident in pre-season as well, even when we were playing the 4-2-3-1 or whatever formation. So I'm kind of worried in terms of what's going to happen at the weekend, because I know United are going to come and try and take a few swings. But
well, you make the point there, and Man United this season, in again the games that they've played, I didn't our game and their game today was on at the same time, so obviously I haven't watched it, but I've seen the highlights, and they just got played straight through like they have all season. You can run straight through the middle there, and as much as the butcher, as he likes to call it, their fans like to call him, you can get through him. You can get through him with it. Varane, I don't think Varane's the guy that they all think he was. When they signed him, he ain't that same guy. And that's what you need to do. You need to get Ben White on that overlap. You know that Luke Shaw and Martinez, they're going to, and Casemiro, if he plays, they're going to try and chop Saka's legs off, mate.
yeah,
what that's going to. So you need that overlap there. And Odegaard, I think that he's one of our best players, especially when we're chasing a game. Because I thought first half he had a stinker, but I thought second half he was so much better.
Yeah.
Which again, this is another thing that I think happens where we concede early and we chase these games, and it goes from being something where we're in control to like a high pressure scenario to try and win the points. We expunge so much energy that then when it is a set piece like it was at the end there, we're not switched on and concentrate because they've knackered. They're probably they're out of breath, or they're thinking like, oh, how much time's on the clock? How much time have we got left? You can't switch off. Like you said, it's the Premier League. You can't switch off in this league. But I understand fatigue. I understand all of that. And yeah, the second, again, like I said, the goalkeeper positioning, terrible. Zinchenko going for a header he's never going to win, terrible. And the star boy, much as we love him, he turns around again as if to be like, well, what happened? And it's your man, Saka. As much as I love you, it's your guy. You got to be tracking that. And yeah, maybe he doesn't win the header anyway, but if he gets there, if he jumps before him, you never know. But just all of it. Like you said, they couldn't string a 5-yard pass together. They were all running in each other's way. I just didn't get it. I was like, be vocal, like shout at one another. I mean, the other night after Eddie missed the lob one, we all mentioned it in the chat, didn't we? Rice, Havertz, all of them just looked at him as if to be like, what have you done that for? And then they didn't really trust him after that. They didn't really go to him until the free kick chance. And that one with Havertz today, he's 6'4". He's got to chuck your foot out there, mate.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Or Leno will parry it. We know that he can't catch. We've seen him for years. We got enough. I'm like, he might parry that back out. I just don't understand how he didn't. I'm like, because again, it must be how he's so shot. Because if he did exert himself to get the ball and he scores, the weight comes right off his shoulder, and then he can relax. And I don't know, Mike. I just don't know.
Even an assist. I mean, there were a lot of things that the ball was coming off of him. I remember he made a pass, literally almost went out for a throw in when he was trying to link with Martinelli down the side. And yeah, that cross, how he doesn't anticipate that, how he doesn't throw his leg at it, to try and get on the end of it. And then the pass he made to Odegaard, which he scored the goal, which was offside. I mean, he didn't mean that, did he? He just sort of just made a mess of that as well. I know it's early days, but I remember when I saw this guy playing for us at Anfield, and I was with some friends, and I said, Pepe, he played against Liverpool at Anfield, and I remember he absolutely cooked Van Dijk. He absolutely rocked him, and I thought, okay. And then he got through. He had a chance. He had a chance to score, and he didn't take it. And then afterwards, I just watched the game, and I just thought, he hasn't got killer instinct. There isn't anything there. I always forget the word, but he hasn't got anything there which is like, okay, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to grab the game by the scruff of the neck.
Ruthlessness,
yeah. He hasn't got that in him. And Pepe was like that, talented player, and we know because he had the numbers. You compare his numbers now and combine it with Sancho and Antony together, and he still produces much more than those two are at the moment. And I kind of see the same thing with Havertz. He wasn't someone that we watched particularly well or closely. Especially when he was at Chelsea, everyone lauds about the goal he scored in the Champions League final. But he just looks like that kind of guy who hasn't got that ruthlessness, and it goes against the type of talent ID which Arteta and Edu have gone for. If you look at all the players that we've got, they've kind of got that sort of side of it, in that side of that character in them. They've got that sort of ruthlessness, to maybe grab the game by the scruff of the neck or do something. And Havertz doesn't seem to have that. And it could be confidence, yeah, but I mean, he's getting paid well. He's been there for a month and a bit. He's been training, because obviously we only get to see what happens on the pitch. But I imagine that he's pretty familiar with what he's being asked for. So he needs to sort of produce it, and he's not. And yeah, today was really bad, man. Really, really bad. I think Neil was there today. And Daniel was there today. He's going to send a vlog in a bit. And the people are getting a bit restless now, because they obviously want him to do well. And I think he can do well. I think he possibly will do well. But I'm with you. We said in the chat, I just think Havertz needed to be eased in to this side and not just sort of plugged in straight away. Especially in a position that he's not used to. If it was up front, let's say, if he was being used as the number 9 or up front, then you could say, okay, because he's done it with Chelsea for a bit. But to put him in a different position, in a different system completely, and to chuck him in straight away there, I think that's Arteta's overconfidence in him, or maybe overconfidence in his own sort of ability to coach. I think that's the worry for me. And I think maybe he's just got to take a step back and let, because we talk about the guy that came on and made the difference, because obviously at half time he took off Trossard, which I thought was a bit harsh to do that, because you don't normally do that to a player unless they're injured. Jury and Timber, get well soon. You normally take a player off when they're injured at half time, not when they've kind of had a stinker. That's a bit of a blow to their pride. So I hope that he hasn't knocked him back a bit by doing that. But what do you think on Vieira? Because again, in the chat, in our chat before the Arsenal chat, I think Jack asked a question about who do you think is going to step up and maybe going to have a good season. And I said Vieira, and then obviously got the penalty in the Community Shield, and then today was brilliant. He done some bits in 10, 15 minutes more than what the guy he replaced. Then Havertz said. What was your thoughts on his performance?
Oh, he was a game changer. He was a game changer. I was so happy for him, because he's a guy a bit like Havertz is getting now. He was so much aligned, because again, he was he wasn't as expensive, but he was an expensive signing in a position where people think, well, do we really need a player there? I mean, as much as we all love these players, I thought at the minute that Granit Xhaka left 8 was Emile Smith-Rowe. but he seems to be another one that's third, fourth, maybe fifth choice for it
Yeah.
compared to what's there now. And but Fabio Vieira coming on, I thought he was brilliant, Mike. I was really, really impressed with him, and I was so happy that obviously he won us the penalty, and then he subsequently got an assist as well for Eddie. I was very, very impressed. And if we got the 3 points, you'd have said that he won us the game. But we definitely don't make that comeback unless, he comes on the pitch and showed what he did. And that's exactly what we need him to do going forward. I don't think he'll start against Man United. I still think he's going to persist with Havertz. But if you know that you've got these people on the bench that you can bring on and do a job, then fantastic. But I don't really want to be in those situations where you're asking these players, I don't want rescue missions. I'd rather have them coming on to add, but thank God they did rescue it. Thank God they did rescue it.
Yeah.
We're still, as much as I feel like I've been extremely negative, we're still unbeaten. So I can't complain too much. We're still invincible for now.
Yeah. I mean, Bukayo Saka steps up again. That whole, between him and Odegaard, will they, won't they? Who's going to take it? Fulham or the referee really messes about with the penalty situation.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. Thank God this guy has ice in his veins.
Yeah,
because I'd have been, and thank God he's a good kid, because this whole new dissent rule thing that they've put in place, where it's just like if you say anything to him now, I would have been going, and I won't because it's your channel, but I'd have been like, "Are you going to let me take this penalty? Are you going to let me take this effing penalty or what?" I'm like, Jesus, man, like seriously, how? And what were they even looking at?
Ridiculous.
I'm like, it's not a head injury. Yeah, like you said, he's done a Ramos to him, but he's not landed on his head.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
come on.
and then they took their time, obviously with the I think with the second one as well, wasn't it? That's where I think he pulled down.
Yeah, and again, Eddie could have been standing on Leno's toes. He still wouldn't have been offside. He's so behind. I just, like you said the other day to me, that you feel that we're ref differently, and I'm not sure. You're starting to convince me, mate. You're starting to convince me. I'm seeing glimpses. I'm seeing little glimpses. I just don't understand how that. I'd have been. Neil was there, and I wish he was here so we could ask him. I'd have been going mental in that ground.
Oh, I can imagine.
Just like, let us take the penalty, man.
Yeah,
jeez.
Imagine. It was ridiculous. It was like it took long enough to decide if it was a penalty or not. And then you just add in a few more minutes. That's probably where the extra time came on. Great stuff from Vieira to win that. It was a bundle of energy. Saka redeems himself because obviously it was his pass that put Fulham in, and he had a bit of a stink. He had a stinker as well. He was really poor. He sort of had the superhero complex, and to me, and it seemed like he was just trying to do a little bit too much. He was outnumbered on many occasions, but he just was trying a little bit too much. But no, great that he slotted that away, because people were surprised that he was going to take it after what happened on Monday, and obviously people like myself who's got him in the fantasy team, happy that he tucks away and got those points for me. It's a nice one. And then Vieira does a bit of magic again, lovely pass, and your boy Eddie Hayden's finest graduate does what he does best, and he tucked away. Lovely finish. I think Jack has said in the chat saying that he thinks Eddie's been the best player so far this season with Thomas Partey. I think, and I think I pretty much agree with him. What do you say, James? And the worry is now it looks like there's a chance that he is going to get sort of pushed aside now that Jesus, as soon as Jesus is fit, and it's going to be basically favourites back in again.
Yeah, I mean, I think Eddie, the numbers speak for itself. He's got 2 goals and 1 assist. He's done what he's been asked to do. I hope that if he's, there was this, like I said, this thing about the knock that he's got in his knee now. I'm hoping if that isn't true, then, and he's fit enough to play, I would start him against Man United. I would not put Jesus straight back in there, because this is your guy that's on form. So we'll see. We'll wait. We'll wait and see what happens with that one. And I am grateful that Gabriel Jesus is back. Don't get me wrong, Gabriel Jesus is a great player, but I pick on merit and I pick on form. And I think this guy, like Jack said, and like you just said as well, I think him and Thomas Partey have been arguably our two best player. I mean, Rice has been fantastic as well in terms of controlling. It's not his foot.
Yeah,
He's had a few long shots. He could have had a few goals and assists himself. I don't think, it's not his foot on an output level, but what he's helped with, apart from this game, defensively and in terms of ticking a game over and controlling the game, yeah, you can see why we paid the money we did, because
yeah,
he's absolutely brilliant at it.
yeah. Definitely, he was the quality again. Trying to get things going, and yeah, just disappointing, man. That second goal, with 10 men, their guy gets the second yellow. Stonewall, and yeah, just switch off at that corner, man. It's just shocking defending, and I don't know who it is, a set piece coach, whether it's tiredness, whatever, concentration. They need to work on that, because you can't keep chucking goals away. I think all the goals that we've conceded this season in the league, obviously three of them, they've all been sort of preventable, in the way that we've been set up. So um, moving away from obviously the game, thankfully, finally, a bit of a shocker today. Obviously, a week to go before less than a week to go before the transfer window closes. Obviously, a lot of talk about Gabriel. Is he going to depart? We both obviously think that would be a travesty if it does, without getting anybody in. We literally will be a case of taking 3 steps forward with the signings we've made, and maybe taking 5 steps back for me personally if something like that happens. What's your thoughts on the whole situation? Because I know you said at the beginning, what just be honest and open and just tell us what the hell's going on. But what's your head telling you, and what's your gut telling you in terms of what's going to happen? Is he going to be an Arsenal player come September 1st?
Well, initially, I thought that when he was saying it's a system thing, because he hasn't got Zinchenko there, so he's flipping it to invert, and obviously he lost Timber. So I was like, okay, so you're flipping it so you can do the inversion on the right with Partey. But now I'm like, Zinchenko is fit. You can't tell me otherwise that he's not fit. Okay, you didn't start him, but because you're still doing this inversion thing on the right hand side. But I believe now, sadly, that he probably has had his head turned. He's seen the money and thought, I'll have some of it, Mike. And it's an absolute travesty if that's the case, because like you said, it is breaking up the best partnership that we have had since our last title win, 19, 20 years ago. And I don't know how many, especially if he wants the left footers. I mean, I like Guehi, Mike, but he's another right footer. And as much as I think he's good, he's not this guy. When Saliba went down, this guy's level went up. And like I said earlier about, no one bailing people out. Well, there were games last season. I mean, there were some times, especially after the World Cup, where he was better than Saliba. Saliba looked average compared to how well Gabriel was doing. And I just worry as well, because he was the appointed vice captain after Xhaka, and I'm like, you're letting too big, because they're clearly influential in the dressing room. And as much as Rob Holding, like I've said, not your fault. You are who you are. You are the player that you are, and it's not your fault you haven't got the abilities that we want and aspire for this team to at the level that they're at now. But even him going as well, rightfully so, he's a big character in that dressing room. He
Yeah,
he did the podcast in the week where he
yeah,
said, I'm one of the guys that's been here and Mikel says to me, pull him out in training. If some of the other experienced players, he was saying a bit about when Lacazette was there, where Lacazette would go in on the kids. He'd leave a few in on kids in training,
yeah,
and Rob Holding had to go over to him and was like, mate, drop that. Like,
yeah,
he's either just come through the academy or he's a new signing, and you're
yeah,
trying to rake the older. He's like, calm it down.
yeah,
And I'm like, you're losing big characters there, and I just don't know how you replace them. And then I said to Jack as well earlier. I sent him a message and I said, if Timber didn't go down, do you think that it would be Gabriel that's being sold, or do you think we'd have sold Partey? Because I believe if Timber stays fit right now, he would probably be the right back, and it would either be Gabriel and Saliba, and then Zinchenko, and then I still think Rice plays, because he still would play Havertz. So I think Rice is, and it'd be Thomas. We'd be talking about Thomas Partey leaving. I think
Partey's leaving.
if Tim. So I'm thinking all along, with all the money that we've outlaid, and everybody said we're good on the books, they might have said to Mikel, I hope they haven't, but they might have said to Mikel, you got to recoup. And he's looking at it going, well, now with everything that's happened, Partey's more useful to me than maybe Gabriel is.
Yeah.
As well as Gabriel having his head turned, maybe he's gone, if I've got to sell one of the big boys, then because you know he'd get bids. It's as much as I love as much as I love Kieran Tierney, it's no shock that he's only got loaned out to a Spanish team that, that there's 3 teams in that league.
Yeah.
He's not got
That's
to
a
one
surprise,
of the big...
though. That is still a surprise to me.
Yeah, it is. It shocks me, but I think it's the injury record and another one of the big boys that could have been sold again. And I hope I don't want him to leave. Is Smith Rowe, but he's another one. It wouldn't. I look at it and I think towards the end of the window, Smith Rowe might look at it and go, I'm so far down the picket. He might want to go, I think I fancy my chances somewhere elsewhere, boss. I hope he doesn't, because the more cups and stuff that we get, the more games and opportunities there is. But I think when you become de facto 4th, maybe 5th choice, you're thinking that regardless of the games that we have, I'm still not going to get in.
I think it's interesting as well, because I think in the presser, like post-game presser today, he was asked about the players who haven't played, and he said he knows in 2 weeks' time all of this will change. He will need those players. So it's going to be interesting, and it'd be a shame if, obviously, it would be a massive shame if Gabriel went and Smith Rowe went. I think it's a shame that Tierney goes, but obviously, if you look at it properly, he's probably 4th in. He's not been in the squad for the last 2 games, and obviously this one was because obviously he's over trying to sort things out with the transfer, with the loan move. Sorry, and it's almost like Emil Smith Rowe is almost in the squad, and because of the homegrown quota now, sadly, because the thing what gets me is about the whole Havertz thing, bringing it back to that, is we were kind of worried that about the possibility of Emil Smith Rowe being sold, Arteta, and it kind of came out through normal channels. The Athletic say no, we want they want him to stay. He's not going anywhere. They're going to sort of try and train him into this left 8 and try and make that his position. And it was like, okay, fine, okay, he'll eventually get some minutes. But it's almost like, well, we've got this guy for 65 million, and he's not being trained up. He's just been thrown in. He's doing it on the fly. Whereas this kid, academy kid, who he's not getting the minutes. He's got to earn his wings outside, and whereas this guy's just doing it there. So that's the contradiction for me, which is a bit of a pain in the bum, really, because I think this kid's a talented kid, and obviously he's had a really good summer with what he did with England, and he's just not getting a look in. And Nelson as well, again, Nelson on the bench, and that's why I'm surprised that he signed his contract, because I thought it looked like he was going to go maybe to Brighton or somewhere like that and get some game time. So again, that could be the whole homegrown aspect of it. So before we finish, I mean, we'll touch on the next game, obviously United. I've already said I think what's happened today, it has to revert back to what he did before. Zinchenko, did his usual bits, some really great passes to break. There was one pass he made after he came on, I don't remember, straight down the middle, and he took out like 3 or 4 of players in the Fulham press, and that's what he's basically there for. It's a fantastic pass, but then he tries to do a bit of a Hollywood pass, which led to the bodybuilder, Baby Oil King, to go through and do what he had to do to lead to the corner and their goal. So, if I leave the final word with you, James, he has to revert back to that system.
Yeah, as much as he can arse about and cost you defensively. Again, looking at Man United on paper, like I said, you can run through him, you can play through him. Him going in there like that against them three that they've got at the moment, they'll panic, mate. They will panic. They will not like it at all. I mean, they're gonna set up exactly how they did pre-season against us, mate, and try and ping it long and then win knockout. They're gonna try and win knockdowns to Rashford or whatever out wide.
Yeah.
Well, actually, he starts up front from now, then he's not playing on the wide. But do you know what I mean? That's all they're going to be doing. They're gonna revert to trying to ping us long and rough us up. You know, I like to call it champagne Stoke. That's exactly what they're going to be like, mate. They're going to be they're going to be champagne Stoke next week, and I think you got to be clued up for it. And someone again like Gabriel, if he's there, winning all those headers and everything, it might not be the cleanest of games. The night it never really is.
No.
But just you got to get 3 points because it's Man United. As much as all these other clubs claim, you know, these Liverpool and Man City claim about their rivalry. What, that one that lasted all of about 18 months. this was nearly 10, 12, nearly 15 odd years that we had this rivalry with them. And they're going on about their little 18 months that they had. Give me a rest. No way. This is the game in the Premier League.
Yes, it
is for me. As much as we go on about our noisy neighbours and our other neighbours that seem to be spending nearly £1 billion, it's us and Man United. I hate Man United more than anybody, mate. I'm a child of the 90s. I hate Man United.
Yeah, I mean, they say obviously the biggest game, you say the biggest club game, obviously in England was Liverpool, Man United. But I've called this our one between United and it's the Premier League Classico basically, because that's the one, you know, that's the one. It's got the hatred there. Proper, they don't like us, we don't like them. You know, we stopped them doing bits, they stopped us doing stuff. You know, they won the couple behind us in the FA Cup. You know, we envy their European record, stuff like that. So it's always going to be them. So
the reason it got sold all over the world was not just because of the game; it was the theatre of this game.
Yeah.
You know, all
Two
that
managers as well.
Yeah, all that in the tunnel at Highbury with Keane and Vieira. You know, them lot in America lap all that stuff up.
Yeah, love it,
because they don't get it. They don't get it over there. They might have some stuff in their sports, but nothing like that.
It's like they love all their, you know, when things go off, don't they? You know, ice hockey and NFL,
exactly.
NFL stuff. I love it when they, you know, when people start kicking off. So yeah, that happened every time. So yeah, we need to, you know, bounce back. It feels like a loss today, and when you're up against the machine that you know has won multiple titles and done the treble, you know, a draw does feel like a defeat. Obviously, if they keep winning, which they probably will do tomorrow against Sheffield United, but we'll see. So thanks, James, for your input tonight, as always. I know you're going to be doing a show with Neil and Jack tomorrow on a Pearly Arsenal. So
potentially I got to do it, you know, and then I got to do a channel on I've got to do one for my channel. Three shows about talking about this game.
You put yourself through it, man.
Why do I do it? Yeah, why do I do it to myself? But no, I appreciate anyone that watches anything that I'm on, and everyone for joining in, and you for inviting me, and Jack and Neil, man. I know I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. But no, catch James on his channel. And on the Purely Arsenal channel as well with Jack and Neil, which will be out tomorrow, I believe, maybe the day after. Got this one out early because I'm off with the kids to Alton Towers for a few days, so I'm going to be on a different type of roller coaster. We're only 3 games in, and I don't know how I'm going to cope this season. But I'll be back obviously later towards the week, so I won't have time to do anything regarding United. So I did it tonight with James, and yes, we'll have a review show, the United review show. That will be Monday, next Monday night. So again, thanks to everybody who watches and supports and retweets the show, the channel. It's really appreciated. Thanks for James for his support as well, and all the guys that pop on. So let's erase this one from my memory, and let's bounce back in style next Sunday against Man United. Thanks, James, and up the Arsenal.
Man, remember, Giroud into the box.